James well.
Why? I thought you'd cut that off when I'm coughing.
Well, I took the first bit of the cough, the initial blast.
So what did we get left with then? Right, okay.
That sounds good, professional. Before an interview, you should do that.
That's very good, okay. Dying, as I'm only too well aware, is a natural thing. It's as natural as being born. Immortality is a natural physical phenomenon. Now, the study of immortality is an area of science, not faith. Scientific evidence has existed for over a century that we all survive the death of our physical bodies, irrespective of our religious beliefs. Not only do we survive, but through the right medium, we have the chance to be reunited with our loved ones back on Earth. So says my next guest, Michaell Roll, from the Campaign for Philosophical Freedom, who has campaigned fearlessly, despite opposition from mainstream psychics, that it is possible to come back from the grave. Michaell has evidence that physical reincarnation is possible. He can tell the story, of course, of Pat, Jeffrey and Gwyn Byrne, wasn't it, Michaell, who've been reunited with their dead sons on many occasions. But you can tell many more stories than that. And we've met several times. I'm trying to think the last time you were on the show. I think it was on the television show, wasn't it?
No.
No, you did this show as well.
I've spoken from Bristol on your show, actually.
That's right. Now, there was always some skepticism from people saying, how come, you know, this is a religious belief that we exist after death, isn't it? No. Isn't it? Not a scientific one. Let's clear this one up first.
Well, I want people to be skeptical. It's terrible to soak up all the rubbish that comes through. You've got to approach everything on a scientific basis. And the proof for survival must be repeatable experiments under laboratory conditions. If it isn't, then forget it. And that's been done over and over again. We've had the experimental proof for over 100 years. I'm passing James now one of the famous photographs taken by Sir William Crookes. Sir William Crookes is one of the greatest scientists we've ever produced. There would be no television if it wasn't for Sir William Crookes. He invented the cathode ray tube. And if you look up X-rays in the encyclopedia, you'll see that he's the pioneer of subatomic physics, the study of the invisible part of the universe. And he actually proved survival by repeatable experiments over many years in his physics laboratory.
Now, you're showing me here a photograph of an elderly man sat down and a young girl in front of him.
Yes, well, the young girl there is the person from the invisible part of the universe, the spirit world, if you like, called Katie King. And every time the medium that he was working with, called Florrie Cook, went into trance, this person from the next world, Katie King, fully materialized and walked around the physics laboratory.
Now, how can you be sure this is a real photograph, Michaell?
Well, yes.
You know, you can give me a photograph,
That's
but
right.
I don't know.
Fair enough. But I've started from the base that Sir William Crookes wasn't a nutter. I've started from the base that he was a genuine scientist, the president of the Royal Society. He was knighted and given the Order of Merit. You don't get any higher than this.
But he did all this at a later stage in his life, so he could have gone a little loopy.
No, he did it long before he was knighted and everything. He was knighted and given the Order of Merit long after that.
In that case, why aren't the experiments that he carried out, and why isn't there more known about it? I mean, if this is a man who did, as you say, prove the existence of life after death, why don't many people know about it?
He proved it also by publishing in the top scientific journals of the day. I mean, it was all accepted. But the classic case of proving survival must be that other scientists, international teams of scientists, must then be able to repeat these experiments, and they did. Professor Charles Richet, with his French team of scientists, worked with their own French medium. You've got to work with a medium if you're going to see something in the invisible. Then Professor Schrenk-Notzing and a German team of scientists did the same experiments, and a Canadian team under Dr. Hamilton. So we've had the experimental proof. But why it didn't break through 100 years ago was they didn't have the mathematical theory, James, to write the equations on the blackboard, showing where these people are materializing from. You see.
Now, think of me. I'm fairly stupid, Mike. I know a lot of our listeners will want to talk to you, and as I look towards my control room, I see that there is nobody in it, and that is a sackable offence. I'm sorry to bring you into this, Michaell, and if they don't get back in there very quickly, I will sack them. Now, where has... I'm sorry about this, Mike. This has just completely thrown me. I look up. I don't expect to see nobody in there. I really don't. Oh, I see the Fräulein is there somewhere. Right, she was on the floor. If Ash gets up from the floor, there's trouble. A lot of trouble. I'm sorry, Michael. Right, let's go back to the beginning. Because this is something that is not to be talking about po-faced. I mean, this, if it's true, is great news for everybody, isn't it?
Because we're all going to die and we've all lost loved ones.
Exactly.
And if there is proof, it must be presented to the people.
The only thing that makes me find this difficult to believe is that it must be very, very crowded there. If we all go to this place and you can go and walk around with Henry VIII and...
I promise you, space is no worry at all.
No worry at all.
Because it's all the invisible part of the universe. Now, you look up at the stars at night and see how big that is. Yeah. Space is not a problem whatsoever.
So it might be difficult to find your loved ones then?
No, apparently not. We all graduate there. When my father was dying, his more or less his dying words were, you're right, I can see my mum and dad waiting at the bottom of the bed for me. Our loved ones are waiting for us to go over this.
Okay, right. Now explain the scientific fact for me. Just a minute. Last week...
I was just on the floor, man.
When Cuddly Craig was here, he didn't leave the control room at all.
Well, he couldn't have been doing his job correctly. I mean, you've got to leave the room.
Sorry. And now, because Fräulein is here, you don't need to leave at all. Not at all. Enough? Thank you. So anyway, Michael, try and talk me through it. I'm a bit stupid about this, and I don't quite get a handle on it. How can you repeat this experiment? How can you physically prove it?
Well, if you're going to see microbes, you've got to work with a microscope. Now, nobody thinks a microscope is supernatural or paranormal, but it's a machine that's detecting the invisible part of the universe, microbes. You can't see the invisible signals hitting your television aerial unless you work with a medium in the front room, a television set. Now, if you're going to contact people in the invisible part of the universe, you've got to work with a human machine. And that's all it is.
Will there never be a time when we can make some sort of machine that will do this?
Oh, I'm sure with the advances in science it's been for the last 100 years, that's going to come. But at the moment, we're stuck with what's known as a materialization medium, like Crookes and Richer and all those worked with. And I came across one myself, as you know, in 1983, the finest materialization medium who's ever lived, called Rita Gould. She had as many as 6 recently deceased people walking around the room as solid and as natural as you are.
And you sat there and witnessed it?
Absolutely, and I was very cross because she'd been demonstrating for about 2 years to spiritualists, and they treated it like going to the bingo or the movies instead of the greatest scientific breakthrough in history.
Could this not be filmed?
That's the first thing I did. I was so livid that this girl had been demonstrating out the kindness of her heart, the people coming up to see her. So I got a professor of astrophysics, Professor Archie Roy from Glasgow University, to go in with the cameras and film it all. So everybody in the world, we put on television across the whole world. And all the time Rita was demonstrating to spiritualists, and they were treated like going to the bingo, she was no danger to the establishment. Because if Archie Roy had gone in and done this filming, the whole of established science would have collapsed, because they're all locked into when you're dead, you're dead. Across every discipline, including psychology and philosophy, are still locked into when you're dead, you're dead. And all the religions would collapse, because nobody's going to grovel to priests if they find it's an automatic thing. We all survive death. Even atheists like myself survive death. So as soon as the establishment heard, I got an astrophysicist to go in and film this. The medium's life was immediately threatened. They said, anonymously, they wouldn't have the guts to come out in the open. They said, if you go ahead with this filming with Archie Roy, we'll not only kill you, we'll kill your family. And they meant it. And they're dead easy to kill, because the last great medium we had in England was Helen Duncan. She was killed by a police raid in 1956. Now, if she was a fraud, she wouldn't have been killed. As soon as the police broke the doors down, she died of internal hemorrhaging a few weeks later. And Rita Gould knew how easy it is to kill one of these mediums, you see.
So, is she still around?
No, I'm afraid I gave her too much publicity, and I should have kept that quiet about Archie Roy going in with the camera. So as soon as we get another one, and now we're on the internet, and I'm broadcasting across the whole world. I broadcast across the States with 200 radio stations recently.
So tell me what is difficult about finding I mean, we have the very successful Derek Acora who appears on the show. We have the not so successful Gary Quinn who was on last week.
Yes, I'm in touch with Derek Acora.
I mean, but they have voices in their heads. They don't have actually materialization.
Look, I'm not knocking mental mediums. They're doing a wonderful job. They're putting loved ones in touch and they're giving evidence. And I stress evidence. Materialization mediums give proof of survival. So that's what we've got to have for proving it.
Tell me what it was like then. You believe that there is an experiment. You can write down the experiment that will actually prove life after death.
Write down the equations.
Yeah.
Every experiment must have a mathematical equation.
So what is the mathematical equation for life after death then?
Well, what are they made of? There's people fully materializing who weren't there a few minutes ago, and they've got to be made of something. The same as microbes are made of something. You can't see and sense them, but they're made of something. And
tell me when you were in this room, Michael. Tell me what it was like. Just take me through the story.
Well,
where was it?
First, it was in Leicester, first of all. That's where Rita was kindly demonstrating. No money was changing hands. She kindly invited me up, and I met as many as 6 people fully materialized from the next world, and they were recently deceased. The photograph you've got in front of you with Sir William Crookes' work, Katie King had died so long previously, he was unable to get relatives there to check her out. But with Rita Gould, we were able to get all the relatives there to check them out. Is this your mum you're speaking to? Is this your dead son? Yes, it is, and we've proved it.
So tell me what it was like before you'd even seen this. I mean, you must have been slightly sceptical.
Oh, no, because I'd read the subject, and my mother had brought me up to read Sir William Crookes and Sir Oliver Lodge.
Listen, we've got to take a break for the news. This is fascinating. Stay with me. If you'd like to talk with Michael in the next hour as well, call us 08700 40 50 60. You're listening to TalkSport, the James Whale Show, that's going to bring you a day of racing on June the 5th. At Lingfield, and more about that in the next hour too.
Justin Toper's Astral Connection. Don't get out of bed for anything less. Get your daily Starscope text message from me, Justin Toper, sent to your mobile every morning for a week. Just make one call to my Astral Connection hotline. Give me a few details and you'll wake up to a cosmic horoscope every day for a week. Justin Toper's Astral Connection, 0906 406 2211. Don't get out of bed for anything less. That's 0906 406 2211.
Service operated by Stream, available to over 18s only. Calls cost $1.50 a minute from landlines.
Nissan Tino 1.
You look fantastic.
James Whale on 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
And a very good day. Welcome back. The James Whale Radio Show, live from TalkSport. My special guest tonight, Michaell Roll. Michael has been campaigning for many years for philosophical freedom, to believe what you wish to believe, because sometimes when you believe things that the establishment aren't happy with, the establishment try and change your mind. And I agree with all that sort of thing. Now, Michael has spent a lot of his time trying to prove the existence of life after death. He has a theory that he would be prepared to send to people.
My little pamphlet, about free of charge.
Yeah. If you would like it, you must do this. If you write to me with a stamped addressed envelope, I will make sure Michael gets them. All right. So if you write to me to James Whale at TalkSport, P.O. Box 1089, London SE18WQ, with a stamped addressed envelope, then Michael will send you his pamphlet. Last time we did this, we had a lot. I can't think there are many people out there who are interested that don't have it. But if you would like Michael's pamphlet to explain what he's talking about tonight, the existence of life after death, write to me with a stamped addressed envelope, and we'll send it back. Or you can visit his website, which is www.cfpf.org.uk. www.cfpf.org.uk. So here we are, your first encounter with spirits.
Etheric people.
Etheric people.
Trying to get away from the religious angle.
Sorry, because you're not religious.
No, I'm an atheist.
Yeah, okay.
I won't worship anything or anybody. I stand up straight.
You went to this woman in Leicester. You sat in the room, although you were a believer in this anyway.
I accepted it as a branch of physics, yes.
Tell me what happened first.
Well, first of all, the medium goes into the corner completely a passive character. This is what's so attractive to science. She doesn't do anything. A lot of people have seen mediums on television and things who actually take part in the experiment, so to speak. But no, the medium, a materialization medium, is a totally passive instrument in the corner of the room. And in the vicinity of that medium, when she goes into trance, as in Rita Gould's case, as many as 6 people fully materialized during the evening, between 8:30 to past midnight, one at a time, sometimes 2 or 3 walking around the room.
Hang on. I've seen these films where the medium suddenly takes on the facial character.
Oh, no, I'm not interested in that.
No?
No, not as far as proving.
Right.
This is a totally passive... So when we go in with the cameras, we'd have a camera on the medium all the time, see that no jiggery-pokery going on. But what we're interested in is what happens in the vicinity of the medium. And that's when the people can fully materialize. Rather like beam me up, Scotty. Nobody there 1 minute, and then...
Let me just say that Michael is looking for a full materialization medium who's prepared to let him come along with a film crew and film you doing it. Now, if anybody knows of one, somebody who's got this power, and I imagine people, this power, I don't know how they get it. It's just some people are born with it.
You see, Rita Gould was born with it. You would be washing up with her at the sink, and a cup would suddenly come up in the air and go round the back of her. It's only somebody from the next world's managed to catch hold of it and bring it round, but you can't see the people manipulating the cup. So you've got to...
And do you believe there are people like that?
I don't believe. I know it. They are.
But they won't come forward because they're frightened.
Well, they're terrified of being killed because they know what happened to Helen Duncan. She was killed by the police raid, and our scientific team could be infiltrated. I mean, I would rather die than that anything happened to one of these mediums. But if we're inviting people in, the medium's got to put their life in the hands of the people left in the room when they go into a trance.
So you're saying
you can kill them easily enough. If you grab hold of the people who are materialized, that will kill the medium, you see. So that's why they're frightened to come forward, James.
Why will that kill the medium?
That's what killed Helen Duncan when the police came charging into her when she was demonstrating. What was materialized around her rushed back into her body, and she died of hemorrhaging, internal hemorrhaging, a few days later.
So, come on, what was it like? Explain to me. You're sitting there in a room not much bigger than this, I shouldn't think.
No, it's about as big as this, yeah.
And then suddenly these spirits appear.
Well,
what do they look
etheric
like?
people, they're exactly the same as us.
You can't touch them.
Yes, of course you can.
Can you?
I wouldn't be interested in the phenomenon unless all 5 senses are working and I was allowed to touch them, talk to them. My colleagues have actually danced around the room with a young 20-year-old opera singer who materialized.
Here on national radio to the whole country, and we broadcast on the web at talksport.net. So around the world we're broadcasting now.
Right.
You, Michaell Roll, are prepared to sit here and say that you have touched and spoken to?
Yeah.
Can you speak to them? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you couldn't, I wouldn't be interested
all right.
in doing
You have spoken, touched, and existed.
And smelt them.
And smelt.
Yeah. My father materialized, and he came with his earthly smells. Heavy smoker, heavy drinker. So all 5 senses are working at one of these experiments.
Spirit people.
This is etheric people, yeah.
Etheric people.
This is what Sir William Crookes worked with. This is, I'm only repeating the experiments.
No, but I want to make people realise that you...
Yeah.
A sane-looking man. I mean, you're what you are, about sort of 56, something like that.
Thank you, James.
60, I don't know. And smartly dressed and a normal, sensible-looking man. Could be even a member of a Rotary Club. I mean, that sort of person.
Member of the MCC.
Are you really? Even worse. And you've sat in a room with etheric people who've come back from wherever you go after you die.
From the etheric world, which is all around us, unseen and unsensed.
What age do you stay the age you are when you die? You say your father came...
The most important thing is that a little boy materialized at age 9 called Russell. He died 20 years previously of cancer, and he fully materialized, and he said, I wonder if you get hold of my mum and dad and let them know I'm still alive. Here's their phone number. And that's exactly what they did. After the session, they phoned up the mum and dad and said, hey, your boy Russell's materialised. Come up and meet him. And they're great friends of mine now. Gwen and Alf Byrne came up from Rayleigh to Leicester, and they've been reunited with.
Did you go with them to see this?
No, I'd met.
You
Russell.
met them afterwards.
I came on the scene afterwards, but I've met Russell. He materialises every time Rita Gould goes into trance.
Why do some people do it and not others?
Why do they come through?
Why has my mum and dad never come back to see me?
Because you've got to find them the instrument to work with, first of all.
It is literally like a needle in a haystack.
No, if you'd gone to Rita Gould's, I mean, they managed to get my father. They said, not the first time, they said, oh, you're coming back next week. Mike, is there anybody over here you'd like us to get? I said, I'd love you to get my dad if you could. And I didn't think any more about it. When I went back the following week, they managed to get my dad. So you could have met your relations.
So tell me this straight. You're telling me absolutely conclusively then you sat in a room and your dad came back. What did he look like?
It's exactly the same as I remember him. But he died of cancer, but he was as fit as a fiddle and came back with his earthly smell.
Did you touch him?
Yes, I did indeed. Well, he touched me, actually, because I was told that as he was new to the experiment, I wasn't allowed to touch him, but he came up and touched me and hugged me.
You felt it?
Yeah, oh yes, I could feel him. But I was allowed to touch the people who materialise on a regular basis because they've learnt to defend themselves or protect themselves. Because you've got to be able to touch them.
My first question would be, so what's it like over there, Dad? What? You know, have you seen Mum? Have you seen Grandpa and Grandma? And I mean, what did you say?
Yeah, well, I can. The main thing is that they've materialised, proving we survived death. This is the most important thing. Now, you realise, if there are scientists listening to this broadcast, like I'm sure there are, every answer to the question, James, then becomes hearsay. Now, I'll tell you about the hearsay if you like.
Hang on, I've spoken to you long before I got cancer.
Yes.
So I've always had an interest in this sort of thing. I'm not doing this just because I nearly went there myself recently.
Yes.
We talked about it before. So you know, people are going to say, "Oh, that stupid James. Well, he's just got a bit funny since he was ill." So I'm not. I mean, I'm fascinated by this. I've never had any proof myself, but I'm open-minded to it.
When you take part in these experiments, all the fear of death goes straight out of the window, because you have it proved. And I promise you, James, as soon as we get this off the ground and one of these materialisation mediums comes forward and we go in, our top scientists are going in. I'm talking about Nobel laureates for physics. They'll be the boys who are going to do the filming, not me, because I'm not a qualified scientist. But if it's anything to do with me, James, I promise I'll get everybody like yourself in media priority to view it before we publish.
Why is there then... Do you think it is a good thing for us to know this or not? I mean,
absolutely.
Why then don't people let us know? I don't know whether politicians know this, people who become prime ministers or things, whether they have any idea of this or not. Why is it kept away?
This is why I'm so angry. I'm not angry that people don't accept what I'm saying. I'm not allowed on any program that's on the paranormal at all. They have a set team they bring in to totally destroy it. You can name them. Dr. Susan Blackmore, Dr. Richard Wiseman, all wheeled in as experts on the paranormal, but I'm in touch with a whole stack of qualified scientists, physicists from Cambridge University, who are never allowed on our television sets. That's why I'm fighting mad about it.
Well, I find it's difficult to believe you, see, because I've never had any problem in having you on my TV show or my radio show or wherever. I mean, and I'm sure unless they just think you're bonkers.
No, you eat 5 establishment characters before breakfast. If Dr. Peter Waddams from Cambridge University, he agrees with everything I'm saying to you, was allowed on television at peak viewing time to take on Dr. Susan Blackmore and Dr. Richard Wiseman, he'd take them to the cleaners and back, and he's not allowed on. I've had to get him over to America.
Well, I still find this difficult to believe, because I imagine, knowing TV people like I do, if they thought they could get a good punch-up between learned people, they go for it.
I hope
I promise you,
if
I do a new TV show, which may or may not come off this year, then I'll think about being able to do that, because it seems to me that if you can prove, you see, you've got to prove it first of all to me. I know you believe in it, and I know lots of people.
I've read the subject, James.
You know, I know you do, but first of all, there is nobody that can do this at the moment in this country. There is no materialisation.
As soon as we get one, we should go in with the cameras.
All right, now. Just take me back and just go through this a little more for me, because I'd like to try and imagine myself there. So you're there, your dad's there. And you haven't seen him for I don't know how many years since he died, but a long time.
20 years previously to when I met him.
What did you ask him? What did you say to him?
My dad was only a guest at the experiment. It's the 6 people who materialise on a regular basis that were actually proving survival. I'm not putting my father forward as proof of survival. It was just a little thing for me.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I said to Dad when he came up to me, I said, what do you think of your grandson, my son, playing for cricket for England at Lord's under 19s? And he was a professional cricketer, my dad, and he broke down crying. And one of the regular communicators came up to him and says, now, Harry, you can't just turn up and expect to communicate as easily as we. You've got to learn to do it, sort of thing. So he was crying with frustration because he was so keen to tell me, how pleased he is with his grandson playing.
Why do they have to learn how to communicate?
Well, same as you have to learn to play the piano, I suppose. I mean, that's why Russell, the little 9-year-old boy, materialises, because he's brilliant at it.
Will he get any older?
Right, here's the hearsay. Now, the hearsay is, I said, Russell, you're coming back as 9. He said, I'm coming back as a 9-year-old boy my parents lost, because that's what they expect to find. When they die, Mike, I'll rush up to them as a 9-year-old boy, but we can change our etheric bodies. You can't change your physical body because you're locked into it. When you break away from the physical body, you can make it young or old. It's got different laws of physics. But I promise you, they've got laws of physics, but different laws of physics to the ones.
Do you understand any of the laws of physics?
Ronald Pearson and all the boys do. That's why I get people to send for my thesis, because I give all the references. And serious researchers can check all these references. They'll never have access to them in the normal way unless they happen to go into America or Russia. Where now, I've got the books here where they've been.
I interviewed Ron Pearson on this show, and Ron Pearson explained. I mean, he's a very old man now, isn't he?
Yes, 70 old. Yeah.
And he explained it to me this way. I think I'm right in saying, and Ash, I'm sure will remind me if I'm wrong. But he was saying it's like we are all part of the whole brain or of existence. We're all electronic energy, which you can't see.
He likens the whole universe unto a giant brain.
Yeah. That's right.
With immediate communication. There's no time lapse between anything.
But I didn't understand where the individuality of retaining your own self went. It sounded more like everybody just joined this huge brain of electric energy.
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, because all I'm doing is what happens at the experiment. So I can promise you that we are individuals to a certain extent, because we're all met by our loved ones when we go over. It's a very exciting adventure by the sound of things. If you had died with your terrible illness, you would have had an adventure in front of you. It's not a tragedy like everybody makes it out to be.
So what is the existence is in the universe. So it's outside what we can see. If you're looking out towards the heavens and the stars and everything else, it's outside all of this.
Well, the reality is the invisible. That is creating the physical. Everything is coming from the invisible part of the universe. Stars, moons, planets, us. We've all come from that invisible part of the universe. And everything goes back there eventually. Certainly, when our physical bodies pack in, a separate body, etheric body, breaks away, which the religionists call a soul. We agree with the religionists. We do have a soul that survives death.
When you were going and meeting this woman and these etheric people, to use your term, Mike, were coming back to you, do you want to answer some calls now, Kirsten? Do you want to answer some calls? Cheers. Ja.
Okay, ich bin wieder da. Was gibt's?
Yeah, thank you. Just answer the calls, Kirsten. Don't be cheeky.
Soll ich? Okay.
Thank you. When they come, and the people not like your father, people there have done it regularly.
Yeah, talk the regular ones. Yeah.
How real do they seem?
Absolutely. The same thing happens to all the boys who went there. The first thing that happens to me, an opera singer who was the medium's grandmother, fully materializes as a young girl. She was in early 20s, comes up to every lad who's been there. She caught hold of my hand and sang me a glorious operatic aria. She did the same to Professor Archie Roy when he went there as well, just to show you what happens. They get their lovely operatic voices back.
Nobody managed to record any of this, or?
Oh yeah, it's been recorded on tape, but it's not. It doesn't count until you go in with the cameras. But that's the sort of thing that happens. They're
What did they tell you of the place that they live? What's it like? What is their day-to-day life like?
There's no terrible shocks. A lot of people die and they don't know they're dead because it's so much like this world. Their world is as solid and as natural to them as ours is to us, because they're made of subatomic particles, the same as we are. The good analogy is that the whole of our physical universe we see and sense is operating on BBC One, but operating in the same space as BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, Sky, all different wavelengths, you see.
Can you drink beer?
If you want to, apparently, you can simulate it, yes.
Can you have sex?
They say you can. You see,
that's good news.
But I tell you what, I think this was the...
I don't want to sit on a cloud.
No,
with a harp
there's nothing like that.
No.
You see, this sensual opera singer that sang to all the boys, it really turns you on. Make no mistake about that. But I think it was a scientific exercise to show that you've still got those wonderful feelings in the next world.
I mean, are they very advanced in what they can do, or what they can... Is existence something that is difficult for you to explain to me? Because it's not like a day-to-day existence that we have here. Presumably there's no need to go to sleep and get up and...
Apparently not, no. But we'll have to wait until we get there. I mean, I'm crazy on sport. I said, do we play cricket, rugby and golf in the next world? And they said, of course we do, Mike. What makes you think we don't play that? But I'll tell you what, James, we'll have to wait until we get there to find out if that's true. I'm not pushing the hearsay at all. I'm just pushing the fact they survived. That's the important thing.
Okay. My guest tonight, Michaell Roll from the Campaign for Philosophical Freedom. He's got a website. It's cfpf.org.uk. But if you would like Michael's thesis, which gives you all the information you need and the link to contact if you want to find out more, he will send it to you free, but you will have to send me a stamped addressed envelope. Send it to James Whale, Talksport, P.O. Box 1089, London SE18WQ, and he will send you his thesis, which is a booklet of about, I don't know...
Sorry, what it is, it's Sir Oliver Lodge's article.
Telling the truth. Living survival after death with subatomic physics is censored in Great Britain. That's what Michael says, and he'll send you his article.
No, this Sir Oliver Lodge's article.
Sir Oliver Lodge's article, which will... he says, prove that... I haven't got time to read it all now, but it is fascinating. If you would like to read it, then drop me a line with a stamped address envelope and we will send it back to you.
From 10 tomorrow morning, the leader of the Liberal Democrats will be answering your questions. He'll try not to answer them. I'll make sure he does. Charles Kennedy, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, with me, Mike Dickin. Join me at 10 tomorrow morning on Talk Sport.
James Whale.
Yeah, but will Tony Blair and William Hague appear on TalkSport? Will any of them come on my show? I don't think so. Who knows? Michaell Roll has. He's here with me this evening, and he, of course, is a man who's campaigned for many years about the existence of life after death. Not from any kind of religious or pseudo-religious practice, but from a scientific practice. He wants me to make it clear. The evidence is not his. He's not a scientist. He's just trying to help. A number of eminent scientists throughout time have said that there is a repeatable experiment. If you would like to read the article that Michael has reproduced by, who is it, Mike?
Sir Oliver Lodge.
Then send me a stamped address envelope and we'll send it back to you. Now, right, where were we? Let's take some... To you now. Right, where were we? Let's take some calls. Wendy in London. Hi, Wendy, you're on the air.
Hi, hello. My dad died of cancer at the end of '99, and I was wondering why. Does it take a long time for the person who's died to reach the other side? Because we were very close, and he hasn't made any contact.
Now, Wendy, I can assure you that it's instantaneous. When my father died of cancer in front of me, as I said to James earlier, that he turned to me and says, "Mike, I can see my mum and dad waiting for me at the bottom of the bed." It's instantaneous. There's no resting in peace in the ground waiting for Judgment Day. I can promise you that. So it's a great comfort for you. Your father's very much alive.
But how will it... I mean, will he make any sort of sign, or is there any way that I can contact him or anything?
Well, in my experience, the first thing they do when they get into the next world is like in that wonderful film Ghost. It's the people in the next world who try and come back and let their loved ones know they're still alive. if you can find a really good medium, it's possible to make mental contact with them.
But it doesn't seem to be that prevalent, these people who can get fully materialised.
Oh, no, and I wouldn't expect them to find a materialization medium. They've got to go straight in the physics laboratory. We've got to protect them, otherwise they'd be killed. But, I mean, if you can go to the, or get recommended to a medium who's had a good record of making contact, by all means try, but please don't make it your be-all and end-all, whatever you do. I walk around the house talking to my mum. I know very well she can see and hear me. We can't see them, but they can certainly see us. So talk
can
to
they
your,
look
talk
in at
to
any
your dad.
time?
Pardon?
Do they have to learn how to look at us?
No, apparently
they can look in any time.
They can see and hear us any time.
Even in personal moments?
No, you come on.
Behave yourself, Ash.
Your mum and dad wouldn't come in the toilet when you're on Earth. They wouldn't come in the toilet.
Exactly, Ash.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Wendy.
But you talk to your dad and when you're walking around the house. And
Right, okay.
All right.
He can hear you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
I know. Joe Bob, probably made up name from London, emailed me. He said, let me make a prediction. Your guest, Michaell Roll, will not find anyone willing to perform such feats under controlled conditions, just like no one has claimed James Randi's $1 million.
Oh, yes, I have. I've claimed James Randi's.
Have you?
Yes, that's when you find it's a trick. I said, I sent him the crushing proof that Professor John Hasted from London University had examined Uri Geller and 30 little children with exactly the same gift of bending metal. This is...
I know Uri very well.
This is repeatable experiments under laboratory conditions, and Professor John Hasted reported that the gift was absolutely genuine, and there was no way that there was trickery involved.
I keep telling... I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I keep... Uri appears on the show quite often, and I keep telling people that he... for many years, he sort of rubbed spoons in front of me and nothing much happened. And he says, oh, I don't know, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you. And then once when we were doing the show, you remember this, Ash, don't you? Because I got quite freaked out about it. He rubbed this spoon. It was my spoon. It wasn't a spoon he brought, no trick spoon. Although I keep getting approached by people who say, get me on your program, James. I can show you how he does that trick. And I've said to people, go on, show me now. Here's a spoon. No, I've got to be prepared for it. I said, no, just do it now. Nobody can. He just rubbed the spoon. And he gave it to me. I said, look, no, another failure. Oh, he said, right. And I put it down, and the spoon bent in front. He wasn't touching it. It was just there, and it just bent.
Yeah. Anyway,
Very spooky.
I sent the proof that Professor Hasted had proved it, that they have this gift, and I said, please send the £1 million, and that's when you find out that Randi's offer is a trick, because first of all, he's the judge and jury. He doesn't recognise the findings of independent scientists, and you've got to satisfy 12 conditions. And those 12 conditions are so worded that he will never have to part with the money. The whole thing is a trick.
Oh, well,
you don't hear that.
Win some, you lose some.
Well, we're not allowed on television to challenge this.
Wally in London, you're on the air.
Good evening, James. I've spoken to you before. Can I speak to Michael, please?
Yes, go ahead.
It's Wally, is it?
Valley.
Valley. Oh, right.
Good evening, Michael.
Good evening.
I wasn't in on the beginning of the program, but did you mention about the energy field and the cosmic energy that's used and the ectoplasm?
Yes, well, certainly there's got to be some sort of...
But did you mention it on your program?
I don't think we've got round to that.
No, we haven't got to that yet.
You should have when you started off.
That's
Sorry
right.
for interrupting you.
That's right.
I think so.
But a physical medium has a certain type of energy.
Yes, indeed.
Which is the ectoplasm that they take. And in a confined thing like a cabinet, that energy is built up. And they have what they call cosmic rods, which are used for a manifestation to take place. The reason I'm talking this way is because I've watched Gordon Higginson. I don't know if you know of him.
Yes, indeed. I've met Gordon Higginson.
Yes, I watched his materialization twice.
Well, hang on, Valley, tell me then, somebody else other than Michael, what is it? Tell me what happens.
Well, the next world is a thought world. It's a creative field force of energy that utilizes thought. So you can go from Timbuktu to Hawaii in a split second.
But what I want to know is, when you've been in the presence of a medium like this, what do you see?
When Gordon Higginson before he went into the cabinet, he was claustrophobic. So they took him into trance, and immediately Gordon Higginson disappeared, and his Chinese helper came in his place.
Why are they always Chinese or Red Indians?
Well, because they know the philosophy of life, and so do the Red Indians better than the Europeans or any other race.
All right, okay.
Well, every medium's different. The one I was working with, Rita Gould, didn't have any Chinese or anything.
No, well, it depends on the energy field that they work with from the other side.
Yeah, so let's explain to people that some sort of material's got to be taken from the medium.
The ectoplasm.
And it's called ectoplasm.
To make the person.
What they make is a temporary spacesuit for somebody from the etheric world to be teleported in.
To put it down, you know the sexual act, right?
Yeah, I know that.
Well, that sperm is used in it as well, and the energy is taken out from all the orifice of the medium.
Well, that's
why they go behind the cabinet,
right.
in the cabinet.
And that's what killed Helen Duncan, because the stuff all rushed back into her body.
Yeah, because one has to be careful. You can't have a flashlight unless you have permission.
Well,
you can't.
Yeah, Sir William Crookes had the flashlight.
Yeah, but
we've got
he
the
was given
photographs.
permission.
He was given permission.
Yeah, and also, don't forget, because the next world is a thought world, they have to use a thought that they have on this earth plane to come into this energy field.
Tell me, Valley, I mean, you know an awful lot about this, it seems to me.
Yes.
Why do you think it can't be made more accessible to most of us? Why are there not many people with this gift?
There are quite a few, but some are frightened in case they'll be ridiculed. You have to be dedicated. Gordon Higginson had 25 years of development, but he was lucky because he had all the gifts of spirit. But it is a dedication, and unfortunately, mediums today want everything quick.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Valley. Anthony is in Eastbourne. You're on TalkSport with James Whale and Michaell Roll.
Hello, James.
Hi, Anthony.
Hello, Michael.
That's a familiar voice, Ted.
He knows me, I know him well.
He's a Shakespearean actor.
Yes, James, just before I get onto that, I went to Dorman's Land in 1947, so I know Lingfield very well.
You do?
I lived there for many years.
Okay.
And anyway, the thing is that I have been witness to materializations in seance conditions, but I've also been witness to materialization in the privacy of my own bedroom at 3:30 one morning in London.
Yeah.
Now, I knew a man called Captain Lawrence, who was the promotion manager for Edgar Wallace and Ivan Novello.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to know him when I lived in Paddington. And before he died, he said to me that I'm going to give you all those Edgar Wallace first editions because I want you to have them. Make sure you get them. I didn't see him for some years. And then I was awakened one morning in my flat in Langham Street, just near the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I suddenly woke up, but everything was very strangely still. And I thought, well, I don't know what's happening. So I thought I'll get out of bed and make myself a cup of tea. So I started to pull the sheets back. And then this figure materialized through me and my bed. And it was Captain Lawrence.
That must have frightened you, didn't it?
No, it didn't. I'd been to this sort of through this at seances before, so I was used to materializations.
Uh-huh.
He said, unless you do something pretty rapidly, Tony, you're going to lose those Edgar Wallace first editions. And I said, my God, what's happened? I didn't even know he'd gone, you see. I still didn't know whether he was dead. And I said, well, and the unfortunate thing was I only knew him as Captain Lawrence. It was awkward for me. I couldn't call him by a Christian name, you see. And anyway, he said, I can't keep this up much longer. I haven't got the power. He said, you must get on to my landlady tomorrow morning first thing and get hold of those books. I'm going now. We shook hands. Now, this is the amazing thing. We shook hands. He said, York Minster, and literally faded away in the wall. I then got up, that made sure in my mind that I wasn't hallucinating. It wasn't a dream sequence. I made a cup of tea, went back to bed. Woke up at 8 o'clock the following morning and phoned his landlady. And I started to say, Captain Lawrence came to me, and I heard her sort of shaking voice at the end of the phone. I said, he promised me his Edgar Wallace first editions. She said, I sold them 2 days ago. Now, you see, that was a real disappointment for him and for me. I then tried to find out what York Minster meant. I discovered it was actually a drinking club in Soho called the French Club, which you probably know.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, and it's known as York Minster. I went there, I had a drink. I thought, well, I'll just have a drink, just for old time's sake, for Captain Lawrence, for Edgar Wallace and Ivor Novello, and I never went back. He's never been back, and that was an amazing bit of proof to me. I've had other forms of proof, but that was the greatest of all.
So if you could do this, Anthony, Michael would be delighted, because he could come and film
I'm not
you.
a seance. I'm not a medium. It just happened to be mediumistic at the time. I'm not a medium, you see.
Has it ever happened to you before?
Never ever. I've been out of body. I've had, close near-death experiences. I know that. I mean, I do know that the mind is so separate from the brain. It's rather like a pebble compared with a mountain. You know, people think, oh, the brain and the mind are the same. They are not.
Totally separate.
Absolutely. That's where these Blackmore people, and they really aggravate me because they really know the truth, but their business would be, defunct if they told the truth themselves.
The public are only allowed access to their thoughts.
That's right.
Our scientists are not allowed up against them.
Absolutely.
Only on the James Whale show.
That's right.
I can't believe that I am the only little arbiter of light in...
well, you are, I'm afraid, James.
You're one of the few, James.
Anthony, thank you for your call.
Okay.
Nice speaking with you.
Bye-bye.
So where did you meet Anthony then?
Oh, many. I've been lecturing all over the country, and in Eastbourne, he comes from Eastbourne area, so I must have been lecturing on the south coast there sometime.
Has a familiar-sounding voice, doesn't he?
Yes, he's a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah. Clive in Brighton, you're on the air. Hello.
Good evening, James. Good evening, Michael.
Hello, Clive.
I actually don't need proof of existence because my mother was a medium. And I was brought up with things supernatural, as it were. But one of the things that has always puzzled me, and I've never actually been able to find out anybody that can really sort of put facts before me, is the reincarnation theory.
Right.
Now, I read several accounts of apparently irrefutable facts that support the theory of reincarnation.
Yeah.
But it puzzles me that if the, as you call it, the etheric world exists, and we pass on to that after our life here, why is it that some are apparently coming back, and not only coming back, but still have memories of places and people who they can then identify in the form of another person?
Right. First of all, the word supernatural goes through me like an arrow. What we're dealing with is what we are dealing with is natural phenomena here. But when one of these people materialised at the Rita Gould experiment, I said, now let's get this straight. I'm getting it straight from the horse's mouth. What about reincarnation? Because we're getting conflicting stories coming back from the next world. And he caught hold of my wrist and says, Mike, I don't know. Now, this is a chap from the next world. He doesn't know about reincarnation.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is to get through to everybody that we survive. That's the first thing, because reincarnation's about coming back again.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what I think. I've done a lot of thinking about this. I reckon that only a little tiny bit of us is plugged into this physical spacesuit. Our parents make a spacesuit, and somebody from the next world, or a piece of somebody from the next world, plugs into that spacesuit. So when I die, I want to meet my heroes, Thomas Paine and Arthur Findlay. I don't want to hear that they've been reincarnated. So that would get over the problem. In fact, only a little bit of us is on Earth, and I reckon our conscience is not an outside agency, James. I reckon it's a part of you, the bigger part of you that hasn't come onto Earth. It's not an outside agency. So that would get over the problem of reincarnation. So little bits of us break off and come down to Earth for experiences.
I see. Does that necessarily mean that that all people are reincarnated, or is there a selection?
Oh, I don't know, because the chap I spoke to didn't know about it.
I see.
But birds of a feather flock together, and then we join the whole. It's like Silver Birch, a great teacher from the next world, says, it's like facets of a diamond. Only a little bit of that diamond comes onto Earth, and then that experience you've got on Earth goes back to make the whole. It's much more complicated, I think, than most people think.
I see. Well, the enigma goes on. However,
But the main thing is we survive. That's the important thing.
Of course, yes.
Let's get that through to everybody, because they haven't got a clue. They've been listening to Susan Blackmore and Dr. Richard Wiseman.
All right, and of course, Richard Blackman and Susan Blackmore, or Richard, what's it?
Wiseman, yeah.
Yeah, more than welcome to come and refute Michaell Roll's comments here anytime they would like to. Clive, thank you for that. We'll take a break back after this.
James West, James West, James West.
I haven't seen Russell for ages. I think he must still be in America.
Probably.
He dumped his wife and ran off, didn't he?
Yeah.
On the phone.
That's show business.
Yeah. Welcome back. Michaell Roll is my guest. The campaign for physical freedom, philosophical freedom, I beg your pardon. Michaell has been campaigning for many years for people to be allowed to believe and see the evidence that life goes on after death, that there is an existence, there is a universe, if you like, where we exist outside the physical body. And if you'd like to find out more about this, you can go to his website at CFPF. What does that stand for?
Campaign for Philosophical Freedom.
I should have known that, shouldn't I? CFPF.org.uk. If you would like to get hold of his pamphlet that he will give you free, then send me a stamped address envelope to the James Whale Show, Talksport, P.O. Box 1089, London, SE18WQ. Include a stamped address envelope, although when we did this last time, so many people wrote it. I can't believe there are any people out there without them. But if you would like one, he will send it to you free if you send us a stamped address envelope. Right, let's take some more calls. Morris is in London. Morris, you're on Talk Sport through to Michaell Roll. Hi.
Hello, James. Hello, James and Michaell.
Hi, Morris.
Really strange experience happened to me. When my mother died 4 years ago, suddenly of cancer, I was extremely sort of distraught over it, obviously. And she died about 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
What are you doing at the moment, Morris?
Sorry?
Well, you seem to be doing something while you're talking to us.
I'm driving a cab, James.
All right, okay, Morris.
Right. 8 o'clock that evening, I was laying on the couch. I wasn't drunk. I hadn't drank, nothing like that. And all of a sudden, I just felt I was in my own world. And then my mum just appeared in front of me, and she was trying to talk to me. And she couldn't say nothing, and I couldn't hear her. But I could actually read what she was trying to say, and what she was saying to me was that she was fine, that she was safe.
That's right.
She was putting her hand out and it was like trying to pat me on the arm, or trying to rub me, and to reassure me that she wasn't gone. She was just moved on to a different plane, or a different part of the world, or life, as what you probably know it.
Yeah, different plane of existence, yeah. Well, millions of people have had that experience that you've had, because that's why I say this bond of love. Once they get into the next world, they're so keen to come back and let their loved ones know that they're still alive, and you've had that wonderful experience.
But how is Morris able to get that and other ones of us aren't? Why was Morris's mum, I mean, my mum probably was glad to get away from me, but why was his mum able to get back to him and other people's not?
Because we all have mediumistic tendencies, but some are much more developed than others. And at that moment, that bond of love triggered off something in the chemistry.
Would she have had to use sort of Morris's ectoplasm or something like that, or whatever?
Yes, Morris's etheric part of the Morris that could link into her, yeah. But I had a wonderful experience this time last year with my dead mother, because when my mother was dying, we set up codes that only Mum and I know. I said, if you come back through a medium, hit me with the codes, Mum, because I won't take a notice of anybody else who says they've got you with you unless you hit me with the codes. My phone went, James, this time last year, and a medium was on the phone. She said, I've got your mum here with me, and she's got an urgent message for you. I said, well, hit me with Mum's codes that we've set up, and she did. She hit me with the codes. And the message was, for goodness sake, Mike, get on the internet. And I did immediately.
So, Morris, did you tell any of your friends about this?
Yeah, I told everyone about it. A friend of mine, who I thought would probably laugh at me, is very much up to date with all this, and he helped me, or he explained to me what was going on. But really funny, very quickly, let someone else talk as well. About 5, 6 months ago, I had a massive problem in my house with an entity, a ghost or something. It kept waking me up, and I felt like I was having seizures and stuff. I went to see someone about it, and what it was my mum coming back to me again through a different way, because my mum did suffer with epilepsy, and she had to get me to know that it was her who was trying to talk to me. And I went to see someone, and they said to me, your mother is giving you a warning. She wants you to do something. And she said to me someone's going to have to test her. You have to be there ready for something. There's a warning. She's telling you something. 2 days later, my dad had a heart attack. And it's fine. He made a good recovery, but my mum sort of came to me to say, prepare yourself, something is going to happen, but he was fine in the end. And it's the most incredible things. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of few times, and if it does happen to anyone, don't be scared of it, just go with it, and it's a great experience to have, and I love it. When it happens, I'm there for it all the time.
Excellent. And as long as everybody realises it's a natural phenomenon we're dealing with, not supernatural. Our loved ones are there in the next world, and as I said to that lady earlier, walk around the house and talk to your dead loved ones. They love to hear from you.
So does that make you feel happier about life in a way, Morris?
I don't know about it makes me happier to feel about life. What it makes me feel happy about is that when my time is ready to come, I'm not going to be afraid to go. I'm just going to go, and I'm going to enjoy it. We're going to see what's on the other side.
Yes.
And not be scared.
And it sounds a very nice place. If you haven't left a bomb in a crowded pub, apparently they don't have a very nice time when they go over. They ain't going to be mixing with normal, decent people.
I'm glad to hear it. Morris, thank you for your call.
Thank you, James.
Nice speaking to you. Bye-bye.
And you, bye.
Sorry, Michael, I didn't... What do you mean? You mean people who are bad and do things that are nasty?
I mean, that's an extreme example, leaving a bomb in a crowded pub, but they ain't going to be mixing with normal, decent people. They go on a different wavelength.
How do you know that?
Oh, it's only hearsay. We'll have to wait until
right, okay,
that's I'm not saying that's scientific proof.
Michael has a certain thing called hearsay, which is things that may happen or may not.
Yeah,
so he doesn't know.
But it makes sense to me that they're not going to be mixing with normal people.
I'm glad to hear it. John in Manchester, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, James.
Yes, John.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, about 20 years ago, I went to see a medium. It was a transfiguration medium.
Yeah.
And it was really quite fascinating. Apparently this lady, the people, loved ones who had passed on, they came back and they were superimposed. Their faces were superimposed on the medium.
Yes.
And you could literally see them, and you could talk to them.
They could, and they were talking in their old voices they had on Earth?
It certainly was. I think the seance went on for about 90 minutes.
Was there anybody you recognised, John?
I wish I could say there was, but they weren't. But I think in the 90 minutes it went on for, I think about 22 people came back. And what I liked about it was obviously people in the audience who recognised loved ones, the mums, dads.
Well, that's wonderful stuff.
And it was great because, and the medium, she was actually called Queenie Dixon.
Oh, yes, she's quite a famous medium, yes.
And apparently she was one of 6 in the country. And she was in the early 70s. But the thing was, she sat at this table, it was in like a church, a spiritualist church, and she'd sit at the table. All of a sudden, her head would just go down, and then it popped back up, and you could just click your fingers, and there was a face there. One minute it was a lady, and it was a young girl. Then it was a man with a beard. Then he had a bald head. And then it was a young girl.
It changed that, I thought these people just sort of contorted their faces. And...
Oh, James, it just changed. It was a spontaneous thing, and it was absolutely. I mean, they say seeing is believing. It was brilliant. I think I was about 20 when I saw that, but I was pretty open-minded. But I can. You mentioned before about energy. I mean, I can see energy. I can see the etheric. I can see the aura. I've had 1 or 2 out-of-the-body experiences, so I can... But that was a one-off. It was brilliant.
Well, one thing we haven't covered, James, the Rita Gould experience, a lady from Holland came across who had lost her son, and her son materialised, and they conversed in fluent Dutch to each other.
Really?
That was excellent. Yeah, that's the sort of thing we want for proving.
Okay. John, thank you very much indeed. We're going to go to the news. Can you stay for another 10 minutes or so after the news?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can
okay.
stay as long as I like.
Okay. Right. So many calls, so little time. Michaell Roll will stay with us. We're also going to be talking to Ronan Hardiman. You remember Ronan was a guest in the studio, not Ronan Keating, no.
But he is Irish.
He is Irish. He also wrote Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance, so he's got a few bob. And he made us a good jingle, didn't he?
Made us a very good jingle.
Made us a very good jingle. We're going to talk to him because his record is released this week.
And he's a nice guy. Very nice guy.
Thank you very much, Ash. He's a very nice guy. And Michael will stay on, take a few more calls as well. We're looking for a full, what's it, medium? What are we looking for?
Full materialization.
Yeah. If you are a full materialization medium, that means that when you're people come back to you, these etheric beings.
And the scientists that will work with you
will keep you in a safe house. Nobody will get to you, I promise you. And everything will be fine. Where did the Fräulein go?
She's gone out to milk a cow.
All right, okay. Back up to the news. Okay, welcome back. My guest is Michaell Roll for the Campaign for Philosophical Freedom. Michael says the study of immortality is an area of science, not faith. Scientific evidence has existed for over a century that we all survive the death of our physical bodies, irrespective of our religious beliefs. Not only do we survive, but through the right medium, we have the chance to be reunited with our loved ones back on Earth. Michael has, if you've just joined us, you've missed most of it, but Michael has actually sat and watched and spoken to and touched people from the other side, from the other plane of existence. And he says all he needs now to prove this to everybody is a medium who can materialize beings, can bring them back, and there are a few, but they're very frightened of being exposed, and he would like to take them to a studio and film them.
A physics laboratory.
A physics laboratory. Let's take some more calls. Pat in Leicester. Now, Pat's ringing in. Apparently she knows you. Hello, Pat.
Hello.
Hi.
Good to hear you, Pat.
Nice to speak to you, Mike.
How do you know him?
Well, I know Mike very well. I've known him many years, and because he came to my house to see the experiments that he's talking about.
What, this lady, Rita Gould?
Rita Gould is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And, yes, they were, all the experiments that Michael is talking about, and many, many more, were all took place at my house.
Yeah, Rita never sat in her own house. She went across Leicester and sat in Pat's house.
Is she still around or not?
Well, she's still around, yes. She isn't...
she doesn't do this anymore?
She isn't doing it anymore, no, but she is still around.
Why doesn't she do it anymore?
Well, because, I suppose she's getting older, and she did it so many times, for such a long... Well, not particularly a long time, but very many, many experiments. We used to sit night after night sometimes because we had so many visitors from all over the world that, sometimes we sat 6 and 7 nights a week just to accommodate the people that wanted to see it.
And did it take a lot out of her?
It does, yes. Of course it does, yes.
She sat from 8:30 to past midnight when I was there. Pat, while you're on, tell all the people listening to this about how you've been reunited with your dead 16-year-old boy who was killed on his motorcycle. That's a wonderful story.
Yes.
On something like 300 repeatable experiments. He fully materialised in your house, didn't he?
He did, yes. He did many, well, as you say, hundreds of times, yes. He was killed on his motorbike 6 weeks before he was 17. Well, he wasn't on his motorbike, he was a passenger.
I see.
Pillion passenger on another motorbike. And I've just been, reunited with him so many times.
And what happened the first time? Tell me how...
The first time, well, it was just, you can imagine, can't you, how you would feel the first time that your son came and spoke to you, held your hand, said, I'm here, Mom, and I'm safe and I'm happy, and, you know, there's no need to worry about me, and, you know, all the sort of things a son would say.
And how, when you saw him, how did he look?
Well, when I saw him, I didn't see him for the first time, because you must remember that these experiments take place in the dark. But we had illuminated, done with luminous paint and things like that, until later on in the experiments we were allowed to have a torch.
Yes, Gwen tells me she put the torch down her son and she could see that he had all his clothes on.
That's right, yes, that's right.
Why does it have to be done in the dark?
Oh, this is because, you might as well say, why do they develop photographs in the dark? It must be something to do with the chemistry. White light destroys ectoplasm. Yes, and Helen Duncan always sat in a red light, but they've now refined it. I said to Helen Duncan when she materialised at the Rita Gould experiment, I said, I'm terrified the same thing's going to happen to Rita Gould that happened to you. You were killed by a police raid. She says, well, ever since I was killed in 1956, Mike, the scientists over here have been refining the ectoplasm. And now when you touch the people, you can't feel there's any covering around you because it's so fine. And in case our defences are breached, there's a good chance the medium won't be injured now, because a lot of work's been done in the etheric world, refining the ectoplasm that they take from the medium.
So can Rita Gould still do this sort of thing?
I'm sure she could if
yeah, but you must remember, Pat, that I'm afraid when I met you in 1983, I was responsible for destroying Rita Gould because I didn't realise how dangerous it was, and I gave too much publicity that Archie Roy was going in with the cameras, and that, as you know, is when she had her life threatened.
Well, yes, I mean, it is a very a very dangerous thing for the medium.
But couldn't you just secretly now go and film it?
That's what we should do. Oh, yes.
Then you can show me the film and I can know.
Yeah, I wish I could do that.
If Rita Gould comes forward now, we shall keep quiet about it. We shall go into the physics laboratory with the top scientists, and we shall do all the work before.
Well, you listen, Pat. You have a word with her and say, would she do it for James?
I don't think she would.
You don't think so?
I might have a word with her, but I'm sure she wouldn't.
See if she can get a word with my mum.
But don't forget, Rita Gould never sat in a cabinet.
No,
like
she didn't.
Helen Duncan and that. Rita Gould just sat in my lounge in an ordinary armchair. And there was no mysterious cabinet or curtains drawn or
anything. Were you not shocked
else.
at this, Pat, when you first saw it?
Shocked? No, I wasn't shocked. No, it's so exciting.
Yeah, exciting is the word, not shocked.
Yeah, it is just so wonderful. You know that you cannot feel. The people that came were before it all started were probably feeling nervous and that sort of thing. Once it starts, it's just such a wonderful atmosphere, and they make you feel so...
And you laugh so much. I mean, little Russell materialised, a 9-year-old boy that was killed, and he has us in stitches of laughter. He's a real comic, this 9-year-old, and that takes the tension out of it when you've got a lot of laughter going.
All right. Pat, thank you for your call.
Okay.
Nice speaking with you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Steve in Coventry, you're on the air. Hi, Steve. I think I have to press that a little harder. Steve.
You've asked that answer my question already, really. I was asking, does it have to be in the dark that they appear?
Well, Helen Duncan always materialised in a red light.
So it can never be out in ordinary daylight?
Well, we wish we could, but it doesn't matter now, because as you know, we've got infrared cameras, laser cameras, and we can see, doesn't matter how dark the room, we can see as clear as day. So we've got all the instruments to cover it now when we go in the physics laboratory.
That's right. There's something slightly strange about that, because I believe in the Bible. In the Bible, you can get angels appearing with physical bodies in the light. So that's what I mean. So spirits, in my belief, can appear with a physical body. And how do you know you're dealing with human beings, not malevolent spirits?
Well, because Pat knew very well she was speaking to her son. I mean, that's a silly question, isn't it?
No, not really.
No, you would know if you were speaking to your dead mother or father immediately.
Spirits can take on information from all sorts of areas and imitate people quite easily.
No, I think you've been reading the wrong book.
I haven't read any.
I wouldn't read the Bible.
I haven't read any books.
I mean, Steve, what gives you this idea then?
Well, I've read the Bible before, and I know that angels can appear.
No, I wouldn't read the Bible.
There are no such things as angels, are there, Steve?
Well, I reckon there could be.
No. Let's keep everything on a scientific basis. We're dealing with people in the invisible part of the universe.
Yeah, but you're dissing me, the same as other people diss you, you're not taken seriously.
No, I don't recognise the Bible as the word of anybody, a few priests.
It's just, even if you take it as a story, in those stories, there are examples of angels appearing with physical bodies.
Well, I think that's just to frighten people, right?
Well, no, they always did people good when they did that. The angels always helped people when they appeared like that.
We're dealing with people in the etheric world, and they're exactly the same as you and me, which our ancestors witnessed the same thing, and they thought
you don't want to hear any talk of angels.
Our ancestors thought they were angels, devils, gods.
We had the angel bloke on the other week, didn't we? We had the angel bloke on last week, and
American.
Very strange.
You can understand how people in the past got terribly confused when this happened, because nothing happened yesterday in the laws of physics. It doesn't happen today, and they thought the people were materializing with supernatural beings. You see,
Wilfred.
Yes.
You're on the air, Wilfred.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, Michael.
Hiya, Wilfred.
Yeah. First of all, I don't have any problem with what Susan Blackmore says. The thought of ceasing to exist when you die is not a problem. Why should
I'm delighted with what Susan says, because I'm a skeptic myself. But what I'm cross about is she has the total freedom of the air, and scientists who disagree with her are not allowed on against her. That's my only complaint.
Well, I would have to disagree with that, Michael, because I've heard many people say on what you're saying tonight. I heard a man one time talk about an old man who materialized in a room, and it was similar to what you were saying, and he was on television and allowed to say it.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about qualified scientists who give the scientific backup.
Yeah.
And talk about subatomic physics. That is what is banned.
Yeah.
You can tell her these stories till you're blue in the face, but what people don't know is that the scientists are all saying the whole thing is a branch of physics. That is what is banned from television.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, you did seem a little bit evasive on one question anyway. James had asked you 3 times before you answered what life was like after death. I actually missed what the answer was because I was talking to the Fräulein Kirsten, the technical operator.
Well, I'm not being evasive. They say it's very similar to our world here.
Well, what's the point in being here and then going over there then?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you why. I think on Earth we've got the contrast of good and evil. We're all mixed in together, and you need that to develop your character, because they tell us, hearsay again, that when we go into the next world, birds of a feather flock together. You don't get the terrible contrast of good and evil in the etheric world that you get on Earth.
Well, then do you come back here again when you're reincarnated, or do you stay over there?
Well, as I said, I think only a little bit of us is plugged into the spacesuit. The bigger part of you, Wilfred, is in the etheric world, and the little bit that separates from the physical body when it dies links up with the bigger part of you in the etheric world. That's how I think it looks to be shaping up at the moment.
And stays in the etheric world, do you think?
Well, a little bit of you could break off again and come back.
Yeah. Until we go, Wilfred, we're never really going to know the answer to these questions.
You see, Michael is saying he has spoken to people who have gone over to the other side, and I would expect somebody who had spoken to people who had gone over to the other side to know those answers.
Well, I have.
What are you not quite clear about? What it's like over there?
Well, yeah, what's it like? What's the purpose of life, and what is the whole purpose? Is there, presumably, how could you be an atheist if there is this life?
Wait a minute, an atheist is only somebody that flatly refuses to worship a supreme, supernatural being with power over the laws of nature. That's the definition of an atheist. I refuse to worship anything or anybody. What's wrong with that?
Well, there must be a supreme being, even if we're part of it.
Well, have you spoken to any of these people who are on the other side, whether there is a God or anything like that?
They haven't got a clue, any more than we have.
They don't concern themselves with spirituality.
I tell you what, when Russell was chewing on a sweet,
this is the little 9-year-old boy.
Little 9-year-old boy, he was chewing on a sweet, and he says, "Oh, the bosses tell me I've got to be careful not to swallow this." So there are bosses above him, but no Big Daddy God, I don't think.
But there's an interesting point, though, Michael, that Wilfred brings up. Have you not asked these questions?
Yeah, they haven't got a clue either.
No?
They don't meet any... There's people in the next world the same as we are.
Do they have nice weather, or do they have... these are the things I'd want to know.
Well, our sun, they're adamant that our sun does not register in their world at all.
Really?
And our sun is billions of hydrogen bombs exploding simultaneously and continuously. And that doesn't even register in the etheric world.
So what is it like then over there? I mean, do they have trees? Do they live in houses?
I've asked these questions. They say they do live in houses. They do play sport. They do play cricket, rugby and golf, but we'll have to wait until we get there. That's what I keep stressing. We don't know until we get there. But the answers to the questions are it's very similar to this world. And they don't have to eat and
They don't have to eat?
No, you've got to have food and drink to keep the physical body going. You certainly don't need it in the etheric world.
Oh dear.
You don't have to earn money either. That's a nice thing.
I like it.
Well, you have to do it if you want to, apparently.
I like sex, and I like eating, and I like drinking.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait till we find that.
Michael's embarrassed now.
Can you smoke up there?
You can't. Well, you do whatever you like.
Yes, you can. Winston Churchill probably has a cigar now and again.
Thank you, Wilfred.
Okay, Jim.
Always on the button. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. That's it for this bit of the program, Michael. Thank you very much indeed. It's been, as usual, fascinating. What I want is a full materialization medium now to offer their services to Michael. Get in touch with me, and who knows, you could make millions. cfcp.org.uk is Michaell Roll's website. If you would like his information, then if you write to me with a stamped addressed envelope, we will send it to Michael. He will send you the stuff back. Just send your stamped address envelope to me, James Whale, Talksport, P.O. Box 1089, London, SE18WQ. I am sure we will talk again soon. Michael, in the meantime, thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, James.
Thanks a lot. Back after this.